Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Pop Go the Writers. And as you might notice, it's just me. Now, I don't know where Jim is. I sent him the link, and sometimes he gets in a nap in the afternoon, and there's always a possibility he's oversleeping. So I thought I'd go on and do a bit of the show and see how much I get on solo. And then if he jumps in, terrific. If not, then we'll just see what we get done. So, but yeah. I hope you are all doing well and having a good time out there. It has been an interesting weekend. Lisa came down to visit me and hung out, and we got caught up on a bunch of TV shows. She got to watch the first couple episodes of Ahsoka. We watched all of Only Murders in the Building, season three. We watched some Crime Scene Kitchen, which is a guilty pleasure. I do love that show. And we tried a couple episodes of Gen V, the new boys series, which I don't think was really to her taste. I was enjoying it well enough that I'll probably finish up once, later in the week. I'll get to it. But yeah, Gen V is interesting. If you're not familiar with The Boys, of course, is this huge series created by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. And it was basically this anti breakdown of superhero comics. Um, Garth just went as absurd as he could, made the heroes villains, and um, added as much sex and depravity and violence as you could in a book. And he did about 6 issues of it over at Wildstorm, and that's after they got bought out by DC. And DC went, no, no, we can't do this. No, can't do it. So then Nick Barucci stood up and said, I'll take you. And the boys moved over to Dynamite, and they proceeded to do like 90 comics over there. There's it is an amazing series, and it's a lot of fun to read. If you haven't picked them up, I know they have a Indiegogo going on right now that has some special limited edition covers, variant covers you can get, and also the special omnibus size. I think you can get the entire series in just 3 omnibuses. So you might want to check that out. Look for the boys over on uh, Indiegogo. Um, but I do like the series. I got a chance to write a adaptation of the first boys graphic novel as a prose novel, and that's out there. Name of the Game, and that was a lot of fun, very interesting because I got to expand on areas that would later get expanded on in the comics, but weren't done so in the first book. So I was able to put in some more background and add some stuff to it as well. And that all got run past Garth, and he was good with it. So that was a lot of fun. And I know that not only was that available like on Amazon and stuff, but they reprinted it in some European countries and some different languages and stuff. So that's cool. The book itself, the Gen V series, is kind of the interesting thing in that it's kind of a spin-off of another project, not project, but it's there's a bunch of teams and a bunch of heroes in the Boys series, and there was a team that I'm trying to remember the name of the team. I can look it up pretty quick, but um, there was another team that's kind of the inspiration for the Gen V series. They were introduced, I think, in the number 24 of the boys. I think they were called G Wiz. Yeah, the G Wiz Junior Soup Team, and that was the inspiration for doing, because they were in like a sorority house and all this crazy stuff. So that's what they were looking for. So this is a spin-off of the boys, and I know the boys focuses on the seven, but there is so much stuff that is not getting picked up on that's in the books. The very first story of the boys isn't Butcher and his team going up against the seven. They actually go after a smaller team, a junior team called Teenage Kicks. And the idea was to make a statement that they were back. And they messed with that team pretty good, or pretty well. And that team had a few characters that would later show up in other ways, but like Pop Claw, A Train's girlfriend from season one, she's a member of Teenage Kicks. Um, the gun guy from Sean Patrick Flannery played him in season three. He's actually from Teenage Kick. He's not from Payback. So they're kind of mixing things up in an interesting way. But that's pretty much they get to do that when. See, that's the thing when it comes to adapting something. It doesn't have to be a straight, at least in my opinion, it doesn't have to be a straight up adaptation, because the actual story still exists in its original form. When you're doing an adaptation, if you want to make some changes and make it your own, I don't think that's a problem, as long as the original creator is good with that, and obviously Garth and Derek are, Seth Rogen and Eric Goldberg are Evan Goldberg are doing this stuff and having great success with it. So I'm happy to see that, um, and it's also good for Dynamite as a company I do a lot with. That when this series does well, people tend to look at the trades and the books and stuff, and they did a good job of making sure there was always coverage for it, so that you could always pick up these trades or these omnibuses. So you know, or they've done a lot of humble bundles where all the boys are offered up too. So there's lots of ways you could read the original boys comics, and they are a lot of fun, and they're very good, but also they're very mature. And again, lots of violence, lots of over the top. So if you want your comics to kind of take a fun of themselves, this is the book for you. So, all right, two things aired this week. And again, I was hoping Jim was going to show up, but I have not gotten a message from him. So, um, the two things that aired since we last were on is the season finale of Ahsoka and the series season premiere of Loki. And for me, it was kind of an emotional roller coaster. Let's start with Ahsoka. Um, I liked the series, but I didn't love it. And part of it was I felt like they were really trying to push Rebels and Clone Wars on the viewers. See, when I see as a writer, if I'm telling a story, there are points where you have to convey information, and there's two ways to do it, and they're very, very right and wrong. You could tell somebody what happened, or you could show them, and showing them is the proper way. And you do that through flashbacks or um, there's different ways you can show something. Ahsoka took a lot of time telling us stuff, telling us about Sabine's training with Ahsoka, telling us how important Ezra is to Sabine and to Hera, and telling us about these different things, and and they don't show us. One of the things that had to come across is that Grand Admiral Thrawn had to be a serious threat. And they tell you he's a serious threat. But we never see anything that makes you feel that way. At least made me feel that way. He had a couple skirmishes that he ran, none of which were successful other than delaying time. So I don't know. I mean, he's supposed to be this great strategist, but all of this stuff exists because of the previous media, whether it's the Rebel series or it's Timothy Zahn's novels or the later Thrawn novels. All of this stuff exists elsewhere. And you could easily, I mean, go out and get a hold of it and watch it. If you have Ahsoka, then you have access to Rebels. So, you can get that stuff. But, I always go back to Stan Lee's line that every comic is somebody's first comic. And you have to write it like the person doesn't know. And a good example of show don't tell. Do you remember in Marvel Comics in the past, they'd have little editor's notes? And they would say something to the effect of, uh, asterisk, you'll see Spider-Man go, I don't want what happened last time to happen again, asterisk. And in the box, it'll say asterisk, Spider-Man and Daredevil mistakenly fought each other over this New York skyline in Daredevil number 42. That's telling. Showing would be to do a quick flashback of them fighting, something like that. Now, they didn't do any flashbacks. They didn't try to show us Ezra and Sabine together when they were younger or any of that. Um, so for me, I really felt like they were telling people, look, you need to go back and watch Rebels, and you need to go back and watch Clone Wars, because this whole thing very much does revolve on that, getting the relationships between these characters, because they really don't establish them, you know. And then we got the ending, and the ending itself is, I don't know, I wanted something more. And again, this might just be me, but we know that Ray Stevenson has passed on. And what we get is some scenes of him being great, and then the ending of him standing on the arm of the statue of the father. And again, they don't explain who that statue is supposed to be. I only know it's the father of the three gods because, I've done some research. I had to look that up. It explains also the owl that shows up every once in a while for Ahsoka. But again, that's all in Clone Wars. Just, you can't find it in any of the live action stuff. And there are people who don't want to watch animated series. They don't do it. You know, I have a doctor that I talk to about all these shows. He drives my mother nuts because I'll come back from some other like, what the doctor say? And I'll say, he says he doesn't understand Loki that much, but he liked Ahsoka. Like, that's not what I meant. That's the kind of conversations I have with him. And I catch him up on stuff. And he was asking, do I need to go back and watch those? And I said, there's probably some you should if you want to catch up. I said you could. They're good shows. I don't find them, distasteful or anything, but there's a lot of them, a lot of seasons. Now, there's a couple websites out there that have figured out, oh, you need to watch these episodes of Clone Wars and these episodes of Rebels, and I would recommend that if you wanted just to catch up. You could sit down and just start watching them. But there's a lot of superfluous episodes of Clone Wars. I don't know about Rebels. Rebels is pretty straightforward, but yeah. So, but you've got this character of Balin Skoll that is so cool, and we know we're not going to get the actor again, so they're going to have to recast or whatever. But there's no resolution to his story at all. There's no resolution to Shin Adi's story. Uh, there's no resolution to Ahsoka's story. We get introduced to the world beyond worlds with no explanation, no tie to what the hell all that was. And we get Balin going off on his thing and Thrawn leaving everybody behind except for Ezra. And then when we get back to our own or the regular galaxy, Ezra just goes. He just walks onto a shuttle and flies away from Thrawn. How did that happen? How did he escape so easily? And then find the new alliance exactly where Hera is? There's a lot there, you know? It just felt like a very cheesy ending. Like, okay, well, we know we're going to do more stuff, so we didn't want to really. So we're going to give you a couple superficial band-aid, the endings, and then just you'll have to come back for either Ahsoka season 2 or whatever movie Dave Filoni's doing. And that's what it just felt like. It felt like it was just slapped on, and I don't know. I really like certain parts of this, what they're doing with Star Wars. I enjoyed the Obi-Wan series. Book of Boba Fett was weak, but it had some things in it I like. I love The Mandalorian, and I liked Ahsoka. I just felt it could have been better written. You know, they could have given us more, explained a bit more. They left too much of it up for us to do our own research. And maybe that's what people like. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, you know, you want to dig in because we see it all the time. A new episode of something comes out, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel, and then there's a ton of people checking Easter eggs and coming up with theories, and maybe that's what you know is the thing now, and they're playing into that. I don't know, but as a writer, it just hearing them tell us the relationships and telling us the history without showing us anything just is annoying. See, I kind of equate it to Only Murders in the Building, and they do flashbacks and scenes um, that the current actors are kind of in the flashback. They do a lot of interesting tricks to show us what's happening. They don't tell us anything. There's no cop that walks up with a report going, "Yeah, this lady over here, she told us this, this, this. So we're good to move on." Info dump. They show us everything. And Ahsoka didn't. Ahsoka did just a bunch of info dumps. It's almost like Hu Yang's whole purpose was to do info dumps. You know, what happened between Sabine and Ahsoka? How did they fall out? Why did Ahsoka stop training her? Oh, Hu Yang will tell Ezra in the middle of the Jedi, the lightsaber building area. It'll just be a throwaway line. It'll just, it's driving me crazy the whole show. It's like, show us some of this. Show us why they feel emotional towards each other. Show us why Sabine is ready to risk bringing Thrawn back just so that she can see Ezra. So, again, I didn't find anything. I thought Ahsoka overall was good. It just there was these storytelling flaws that drove me nuts. You know. Now, the other end of the spectrum, the Loki season premiere. Now, they didn't tell us much of anything. But they kind of give you a wink and a nod that you're going to understand all this later. It's going to be one of those things where we're seeing this play out now and we're going to connect all the dots later. You know, yes, we're seeing it three different times and we're jumping around and, you know, but we'll fill all that in. There's that promise. And I'll tell you, if we get to the finale, episode 6, and they haven't connected all those dots, then I'll be the one going, oh my God, what the hell are they doing? But as of right now, they came out and said, okay, remember how weird things were the first season? We're going to up that to 11. And that's pretty much what they did. They introduced the character of Ouroboros, or OB, and they introduced him in a very interesting way, in that it's like he's always in that one spot. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't eat. So he's an interesting character. So that makes me wonder, does time pass in the TVA? Do they have shifts? Because they have 17-minute breaks, and I don't know why 17. And we've seen Loki take a break, or Mobius take a break. But do they leave the TVA? Do they have a home? Do they have an apartment somewhere in the building they go to? Do they do things in off hours, or is it just constantly working? Because that's the impression we got from OB, is that he's always right there in that little area and until they actually need him to come out. You know, Ki Hu Kwan was just brilliant. The way he'd ask questions, there was, and it's probably because Owen Wilson's in it, but there was this very Wes Anderson feel to the episode. There were little cutaways. There was a moment in the elevator where Loki and Mobius are standing there, and Mobius is trying to give Loki an idea of how horrific the time slipping looks. And you're just focused on the two of them in the elevator. And then suddenly he goes, well, how bad is it? And he pans to the right, and there's another person in the elevator we hadn't seen, and they're just speechless. That is a very Wes Anderson moment. Or I saw someone else talking about this. One of the things Anderson will do to show the speed up the passage of time, is when he's cutting between scenes, between characters talking, he'll have them centered on the screen in the same headspace. So when you cut back and forth, there's no adjusting your eyes. You're just immediately on their face because you were just on the last guy's face. And they do that with both Loki and Obi and Mobius and Obi, because you'll see Mobius scoots over a little bit when they start doing that. And that's why when Loki time slips back, he actually bumps into Mobius because Mobius had slid over. But so there's a lot of Wes Anderson like moments in this, and the way they are delivering the dialogue and bouncing back and forth. And Ki Hu Kwan just picked up on it like that. You know, there's the whole time slipping. It's impossible, but you just saw it. Yeah, I'm having a hard time with that. You know, that whole repertoire back and forth. There's a lot of cleverness in it, and it's one of those that you watch and you just kind of sit back. You guys remember the old thing about the sound? The guy sitting in the chair with a glass of wine, listening to the sound. It's just waving over him. He's being blown back by it. That's what this episode is. You sit down and it just goes all past you. And then your mind at the end of it, when you see the closing credits, you start going, okay, what the hell did I just watch? Let me piece some of that together. Okay, that was weird. And I think that's what this season's going to be, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I think this has been one of the more exciting premieres for Marvel so far in quite some time. I like that this premiere actually better than the first Loki premiere because I think in Loki season one they had a lot of setup to do, had to explain what the TVA is, where they're going with it, all of that. This one, it's like no, we're just going to hit the ground running. So if you haven't seen Loki season one, you're going to be totally lost with season two. Just, but then you kind of expect that, you know. And that's the thing with Ahsoka, is it's not Ahsoka season two, and where all this stuff was last season. You can expect that of the viewer to be caught up with the show itself. It's when you have to start asking them to watch other things. Well, this you don't even need to see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania to be able to watch Loki. It's not connected, even though Kang is in that. He who remains Kang, time and all that stuff, and it may play out together in the end. But right now, you can just hit the ground running. If you've seen season one, it literally picks up right after. You know, and there's a closing credit scene. It's been, they've been doing less and less of those. I know we usually get one at the end of like episode 5 and then going into 6, but Secret Invasion never had one. So it's kind of interesting that we didn't, or that we get one this early. And it's kind of it seems a bit mundane, but that I think is going to be important because it's such a character moment for Sylvie. Now, if you haven't seen the end credit scene, you should, but maybe I should put the spoiler thing up. There we go. So the end credit for it is Sylvie, like right from the Citadel, the End of Time, right after having killed He Who Remains. She walks through this time portal to this little area in Missouri, Braxton, Missouri, which is a recurring place in the Marvel universe, and it's a branch timeline. And she goes into a McDonald's, and it's great when she, the guy behind the counter says, "What can I get you?" And she says, just lists off no rat, no possum, no something or else, um, nothing alive, nothing with a face. And you're just thinking, how horrible has she been eating all this time? And then you get it that her life has been jumping from apocalypse to apocalypse in the worst times ever. So she's never just been able to sit and relax, sit and talk to somebody. And she looks around this McDonald's, and it's a 1982 McDonald's, but there's people on, looks like on a date. There's a family. There's like a birthday party. I mean, it's all this very nice, relaxed atmosphere. The guy reads off some of the items on the menu, and he's like, "So what can I get you?" And she's like, "I want to try it all." And I think that's why she ends up working there, is because this looks like a hub of all the stuff that she's been denied in her life. Just the happy moments, and yeah, I realize that for a lot of us that doesn't make sense. But McDonald's used to be the place that your parents took you as a treat. They had the playground, and you could have your birthday party there, and it was kind of a special thing. Well, we cooked burgers at home. I don't want, I want a McDonald's burger. Oh, all right, I'll take you to McDonald's. Or after a little league game or something, you went with the team, and so in that era, McDonald's means a lot. And what's interesting is that McDonald's is a sponsor of the show, but it wasn't written that way. They didn't get a deal with McDonald's and then decide to write them in the show. According to the writer, he felt this way about McDonald's. He put it into the script hoping they would be able to do something with them, hoping that McDonald's wouldn't take it as an insult or, oh, you're just trying to make fun of us, and would allow them to do it. And then when it went to the higher ups, one of them said, oh, we already have a relationship with McDonald's. This should be easy to get. And he's like, oh, okay. So the use of McDonald's in the series was actually a natural thing written by the writer. The fact that McDonald's is suddenly supporting it and all that is because there's corporate synergy between the two, which is cool, you know. But it's I know it's going to come across to a lot of people the other way. Um, I love the fact that they brought a lot of the characters back from season one, but also gave us some new characters. We get to see some more of the higher ups at the TVA who they're not judge level, but they're like above or beside Renslayer, who's gone. And there's a very militaristic one who wants to, that she's going to be a problem. There's no doubt about it. And there's just a lot going on. But the biggest thing is that Loki keeps jumping through time in the TVA, which is not supposed to happen. The TVA is supposed to be outside of time. All of time is happening around them. They're outside of time. Turns out they're not, because Loki has jumped to the past and the future. And I think that that's going to be a huge thing, because we're going to find out that basically Kang just wiped everybody's minds and started over again a few times. Oh, it doesn't work to have me as the head of the TVA, so we're going to wipe their minds and we're going to create the time judges or the time justices. You know, so again, I think all that's going to play out this season, and I'm curious how Victor Timely is going to play into it, because there's some clips of him, and I think he's going to show up sooner or later. There's the X5 guy, the Judge X5, who seems very gung ho to kill people. He's the same actor who's playing the Zaniac. So that's going to be interesting too. Yeah, there's a lot set up here, and I'm really curious how it's going to play out, because it's not straightforward. And I think that's what makes Loki cool, is it's one of those shows you really need to pay attention to. This is not the one to have a gummy and relax to, because you're going to miss some stuff. I also like the quirkiness of the show, and again, it feels a lot like a I can't think of the guy's name. The director I was talking about earlier, Anderson, Wes Anderson. There's so many little things that again feel like a Wes Anderson thing. The space suit, or the time suit that Mobius has to put on, and the duct tape over the cracked glass, and how it's just this big padded suit, and it's got this giant air vac vent on the back of it, or how Loki is pretty much just pulled out like fly fishing out of time, or that when you see the TVA and you see Mobius walking out on the time bridge, or the bridge out to the weave, the loom, they have the logo branded on the outside wall. Who the hell's going to see that? That they took the time to put that there. That's pretty crazy. So, but yeah, so my thoughts on them, and I'm going to throw Only Murders in the Building into this wrap up as well, because I did finish Only Murders in the Building. Loved it. I loved the series. I thought they took some departures from their normal format for a while but still brought it back around and gave a very satisfying, very only murders in the building ending. They set up the next season very well, and I'm looking forward to it already. Ahsoka, I'm very much looking forward to where this goes next. I just would like to have seen a little bit more closure on a couple of the stories. I just feel like it was just way too open ended, And I'm fine with the Empire Strikes Back type ending, where the good guys lose and the bad guys get what they want. I don't have a problem with that. My problem comes from it just we never resolved anything with anybody. So Balin, Shinhati, you know, are they going to use the world between? What is he looking for? Is he looking for the world between worlds? Is that how Ahsoka is going to get home? It just you ended the series. Give us some answers. So, and then Loki, I thought was just a great premiere. Can it keep up this level? I don't know. It was really well done, but that's the problem with time travel stuff like this. When you open it up and you go crazy, it's great. But then once you've done that, you need to start putting the pieces together and have it make sense by the end. And sometimes that's boring. Or sometimes you can lose viewers in doing that if it's not done right. So I'm hoping they make it work, but we shall see. But I am very intrigued by the series. So that's everything I caught up on. Like I said, I'm gonna watch the rest of Gen V or get caught up on Gen V. I got 2 episodes in, so we'll talk about that. Um, almost made it through Crime Scene Kitchen. I got one more. I got the finale left to watch, but and I'm still reading the Ant-Man book or the Scott Lang biography that came out. I'm still getting through that. I haven't had a chance to sit down and read a lot. Like I said, Lisa was down. It's been a busy week, but I will get back to that and we will talk about it. But I am going to wrap up the show there. Like I said, it's not the normal Pop Go the Writers, but it's just me and just randomly talking for an hour is probably a little over the top. So I am going to wrap it up there. We can turn the spoiler thing back off. Thank you for tuning in, popping in, hitting the thumbs up button. I appreciate it. And Jim and I will be back next week. We will ask Jim where he was. Again, I'm thinking he overslept, but it happens. So stay tuned for that. And I'll be back on Tuesday with the Dan Wickline Show at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on The Experience. Have fun. See you then. And